Well, Turkey says it will support Finland's bid to join NATO.
That's right. This announcement comes after the presidents of both countries met in Ankara today. Both Finland and Sweden applied to become NATO members some 10 months ago in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. NATO requires the approval of all 30 members to expand, but Turkey and Hungary have delayed that process. Erdogan expects Finland's ratification process to be completed after his country's elections in May. Take a look at this statement from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He says the U.S. welcomes Erdogan's announcement and encourages Turkey to quickly ratify Sweden's accession as well.
For more, let's bring in Heather Conley. She is the president of the German Marshall Fund of the U.S. Heather, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. So, Heather, I know you served in the Bush administration at the State Department. This topic of NATO enlargement is one that is very familiar to you. Why is this so significant, this latest development with Finland?
Elaine, this is really a historic day. Finland, which has always maintained a very neutral posture, they fought very successfully in 1939 against the Soviet Union, the Winter War. But after that war, and as the Soviet Union and the U.S. began the Cold War, Finland became a very neutral place. And it was, in fact, Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, its full-scale invasion, that completely transformed Finland's view about its own security. They, along with Sweden, who also changed 2,000 years of neutrality, immediately sought membership into NATO. Finland has an 830-mile border with Russia. This is a huge strategic defeat for Russia. As much as Mr. Putin does not want NATO to come closer to Russia's borders, it is exactly his actions that are driving countries to seek the safety and security of NATO. But importantly, Finland provides really significant military and defensive capabilities. So NATO is now welcoming a very militarily capable ally at a very geostrategically important location in Northern Europe.
And just remind us why Turkey was so hesitant to allow other nations to join NATO. I understand it had a lot to do with its suspicions over them perhaps harboring what Turkey describes as Kurdish terrorists.
Errol, you're absolutely right. In many ways, President Erdogan did not have any significant issues with Finland, which is why they were able to proceed by themselves. There has been a clear concern from Ankara, and it stems back from absolutely Sweden has certainly a large Kurdish population within Sweden, and the individuals that Mr. Erdogan is asking Sweden to so-called hand back, those are journalists, political opponents of the Erdogan regime that have actually sought political asylum from Sweden. Erdogan wants 120 people to be turned over. This is not going to happen. Interestingly, Sweden has changed its constitution. It's now in the process of changing it again to certainly focus more on increasing counterterrorism cooperation with Turkey. But this handing over of these political opponents, that's something that Sweden is really not going to be able to do. So we need to find a way forward to allow Turkey, and as you rightly said, Hungary as well, from lifting this blockade, because the longer this goes, where now Finland will enter NATO, Sweden will be out, the longer that American, British, French, German security guarantees are going to have to be given to Sweden because it will remain outside of NATO. So that's why you saw Jake Sullivan's very important statement. We need to get Sweden into NATO as soon as possible.
Heather, can you just expand on that a little bit here? Explain the significance and, historically looking at Sweden, and also, as you pointed out, the very sort of complex dynamic with Turkey. These decisions have so many factors and so many potential geopolitical implications. Can you talk a bit more about Sweden in particular?
Absolutely. So again, Sweden was really a neutral country for 2,000 years. If you think about its history, this is an enormous step for Sweden to join a collective defense alliance. And so what Turkey is doing, and this is really the most unfortunate thing, all NATO members at last year's NATO summit pledged to welcome Sweden and Finland into NATO. understanding that Turkey had very specific concerns with Sweden about, again, its what it believes are terrorists. Again, many of these are just political opposition figures. They created a trilateral format with Turkey, Finland, and Sweden to be in dialogue to move this forward under NATO auspices. Unfortunately, problems just kept happening. And a very unfortunate incident where there was a burning of the Quran in Stockholm, and this, of course, inflamed President Erdogan. Of course, it's highly insulting to a religion, but this just created the animosity that, as Turkey is now about to go into an election on May 14th, nationalists and even Turkish political opposition leaders were very much against Sweden's entrance or ratifying Sweden's membership. So what's going to happen after the Turkish election on May 14th? We are hoping that a way forward is found to allow Sweden's membership to be ratified. This needs to happen before a July NATO summit that will be held in Lithuania. If this problem isn't resolved, it will not be that strong message of unity and solidarity that NATO certainly wants to send on its eastern flank in July.
But very remarkable, and certainly the opposite, it would appear, of what Russia was intending with its invasion of Ukraine in the first place. Heather Conley, great to have your insight on all of this. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.